We are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Blake Rafino. This is Are You Serious Sports. We hope that you guys are making it a good one. We know that we are as well. Huge show in store for you tonight. Listen, the bottom line is it comes down to this. And we'll have the graphic. We will have the stats. We will have the backing of why Saturday night in Death Valley at 6 o'clock, you will, and you can, not will, I should say, you can beat Alabama. You need one man to go absolutely you. If you don't, if your urban rap isn't up to date, you might not know what you means. You know, like Soldier Boy up in this hoe. Watch me crank and watch me roll. Watch me crank that Superman or whatever. Superman that hoe. You'll have to go full Superman. I think Jayden Daniels can do that. We'll talk about that here tonight. Wilson Alexander joins us from The Advocate at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Was he surprised that LSU came in at number 10 last night? What does it mean for Brian Kelly in his first year? Are they exceeding expectations? We'll get to all of that with him. I will get a Rafino's Rants, a dual Rafino's Rants here tonight. Some of you, by the way, probably won't know what I'm referring to, but there is something I need to touch on. From my home area, we will get to this later on. I won't spend much time on it, maybe a minute and a half. But Bogalusa and Albany, two high school teams, Albany canceled the game and forfeited the game last night or this week because of something that happened in Bogalusa last week. We'll talk on it. Bogalusa people and fans are saying, oh, why did you forfeit the game? Well, you can't have situations like you did and say that Albany's in the wrong for forfeiting a game when you have situations the way you did. If you miss it, there was an altercation at Bogalusa's game last week or week before last that Albany just didn't want to be a part of. But nevertheless, they probably still should play. It's not the kids' fault that happened. That's for sure. But we'll get into that. Also, the big thing tonight, nobody believes in you. I feel like I get on repeat during and on a soapbox when I say this religiously. Nobody believes in you. Like, maybe there is some people. Hold on. Maybe there is some people that believes in you. But everywhere I turn around over the last 24 hours, maybe 48 hours, everybody's putting down on LSU. If I'm a leader on their team, I'm going to tell the team this. What I'm about to tell you in this Rafino's Rants. So we'll get into it. SEC Week 8 preview. Look, we've talked a lot of Tennessee, Georgia. We talked a lot of LSU and Alabama. We also will talk around the SEC as well. Cody McGee says, awesome show earlier today. Blake, yes, if you missed it, we're going to be continuing to do the SEC show, me, myself, and Joe DeLeon from our good friends over at Believe. So we will continue to do that. So thank you. But yeah, and we'll get to Monday Night Football and the Saints. I will not be here next Monday. We're going to the Saints game. We wouldn't be doing a show during the Saints game anyway. But Aaron Miller says, huge weekend on many levels. SEC West, recruits, player implications. Yes, we will be having the entire list on AYS Sports Network or AYSS network.com tomorrow of all the recruits that we know that will be attending the game. It's a very, very long list. We've been didn't want to do it today because we had some guys that hadn't confirmed with us. So we'll get that and we'll get it to you. But it is a huge week. Preston Guy, I went on the show last night. You can check it out on tigerbait.com or Tigerbait YouTube channel. It says that Soldier Boy verse just got pre-approved for a mortgage. It's old. It's old. That's for sure. Lamar Pressure Williams says, roll Tide, what F you? Okay. Jasmine. I like Jasmine. That's a pretty name for a girl. Maybe if it wouldn't have been Jewel. I like Jasmine. But she says on YouTube, I believe in the LSU Tigers 34-28, Blake. Okay. I dig it. I dig it. Chris Lomax on YouTube says, hashtag Ask Blake, do you think the weather's going to have a big impact? Not really, since if you've seen it today that said that it will be moving out. It'll rain earlier in the morning, but it'll move out before the game starts. So probably not too much. Maybe a little bit with the surface. Maybe you just got to make sure that you're keeping your feet in crucial situations. Other than that, probably not. Robbie Robick, what's up, Robbie? Says, how's the rain going to affect the game? Yeah, we just touched on that. I now that it's going to be in the morning, I don't think too much. Todd Boudreaux says he liked and shared. Now bring on Bama. Let's go. Okay. I appreciate that. I greatly, greatly appreciate that. That's for sure. Okay. So let's do this. We'll get it rolling. Yes, if you see, I got to give out my good friends Tully and all the crew over at Synergy Resources. If you see the shirt, purple and gold, the hat, we obviously are repping our good buddies and our good friends over at Synergy Resources. Hydraulic hoses, parts, whatever you need, they are your go-to people. Give them a call today and ask for Tully. Guys, absolutely spectacular. It's SynergyRellc.com. That's SynergyRellc.com. Let them know that your good friend Blake Rafino sent you on by. All right, so everybody, let's get this thing rolling. So many of you listeners listening to us live right now on Facebook. Hit the like and share. Share to all those Facebook groups. We greatly appreciate you doing that. If you're listening to us on YouTube, subscribe, notification bell, all of that good stuff. If you're listening to us wherever you listen to podcasts, and if you're listening to us on XM Radio or you're listening to us on the TuneIn app, rate, review, subscribe, all of that good stuff. We greatly, greatly appreciate you doing that. All right, let's get to our first break. Do a brother a favor, though. Can we just take a quick, like a brief moment of silence and let everybody do your boy a solid by hitting the like and share? What does a brother got to do? You know, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Like, I see how many people are here live. I see how many people are listening to us on the radio. There's over 400 of you listening to us. Do your brother a solid. Wherever you're listening, share it to your social media pages. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. All right, let's talk about our good friends over at BetOnline.ag and our good friends over at GM Varno & Sons. LSU's going to win. Some people believe it. Do I believe it? I don't know. But one man's going to have a Herculean effort. I think he can. He's got to be like Soulja Boy. He's got to yo and be that Superman. I think he can do that. Talk about it next. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag. With over 65 years of experience, nobody is better equipped to service in your vehicle than GM Varno & Sons. RV repair, big rig overhauls, motorhome chassis, routine maintenance, tire rotations, tire sales. No job is too big or too small over at GM. If you break down on the side of the road in the greater Baton Rouge area, they will come and get you. And the best thing about that is that they can come and get you, and then they can bring your vehicle back to their shop and start the repairs right then. Again, GM Varno & Sons. Go see them over at 2500 Fuller Boulevard. Give them a call at 225-664-9992. 225-664-9992. Tell them your good friend Blake Rafino sent you on by. Lamar Williams says, wait, Blake, do you think LSU can win? Yeah, I think they can win. I think it's going to take a Herculean effort, right? Like it you're going to have a Herculean effort from Jayden Daniels. We'll get to that graphic in just a minute. We'll start with this Rafino's Rants after a couple more of these comments. Howard Jr. says, what's good, fam? It's my birthday. All I want for my birthday is a big booty hoe. All I want for my birthday. He says, I see the Tigers leading the game by 14 until the finish. Okay. I like to see that. Corey Hayes says, your show's addicting. Always love tuning in from Maryland. I love seeing that, man. I love seeing that. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Corey, from tuning in from Maryland. Stephen Fry, our good friends over at Fry Construction, site and work and land development, oil and gas services, commercial construction, aggregate and soil hauling, waste containers, demolition. They do it all. Give them a call today at 337-457-5100. That's 337-457-5100. Let them know that your good friend Blake Rafino sent you on by. But Stephen says, just getting up in this bit. Tell me something good, Blake. Okay. Tell me something good. All right, last one, then we'll get rolling. Boogie Season says, hashtag Ask Blake, do you think Bama DBs can get exposed again? Look, I think we can, and we can start there. Okay, and this is going to be my Rafino's rants from the night, and I'm going to give you the reason why you should believe, and not just believe, like B-L-E-A-V, believe. This is why you should believe. Look, I see it on social media, okay? I see on Twitter, I see on Facebook, a lot of people saying there's no way that LSU can win. I understand it. LSU had a tough game against Tennessee. They lost earlier in the season to Florida State. Didn't look so good against Auburn. I understand what you're saying. But when you're talking about LSU, when people are talking about LSU, the funny thing that I don't hear remotely from anybody when they're complaining about LSU is the last 2 weeks. I don't hear them talking about Jayden Daniels. I don't think people fully understand yet how good this young man has been. We'll show you how good he's been because there's one person that you will see Saturday night that's in the Heisman contention race. Don't hear you talking about Jayden Daniels like that. Why? He's in the SEC West battle. LSU's in that battle along with him. But I got to tell you this. Take out the game, take out the X's and O's, take out Nick Saban, take out all, well, maybe you can't take it all out, but take it out for just a minute. If what you're seeing and what you're hearing, I know Orgeron used to say block out the noise. You know that the players aren't blocking out the noise. They never were. They never were. Go prove it. You know, there's so many times in sports that the unthinkable happens. I don't think that this game is unthinkable that LSU can win. Even in a loss, LSU can prove that they belong, that Brian Kelly has this ship rowing in the right direction. See, people get lazy with their takes. The media gets lazy with their takes. Oh, LSU sucks. Yeah, that's cute and all. But when they line up and they start clapping moist cheeks on Saturday night because it's been raining all day, are you really going to be saying that? I would love to line up with Oklahoma. I would love to line up with TCU. I would love to line up with UCLA. I would beg and plead and pay for LSU to line up with Notre Dame. Please, 6-pound, 8-ounce, newborn sweet baby Jesus, line up. Because what you are seeing is an LSU team that's changing. The former staff couldn't adapt quickly enough or well enough or at all to where you could get to a situation where you could ride the ship. Your new head coach has. I don't buy this, LSU's going to get their cheeks clapped. Maybe they do. And then we're sitting here Saturday night at the end of the game like, what the hell just happened? But guys, history always repeats itself. It's something that I've talked about on this show after show after show after show. History a lot of times can repeat itself. And if it does, this game's going to be a lot closer than the experts think. Yes, give me the plus 13.5 for LSU. Thank you. If I'm a leader in that locker room, I'm going up to everybody I can find that wears an LSU jersey on Saturdays. And I'm telling every single one of those guys in that locker room, you got to believe. You got to believe that you can go out there and beat them. You got, and I mimic this all the time because, you know, us Italians, we like a good Rocky movie. Go to Rocky 4. Go to Rocky 3. Be more man than them. They're coming to your house. Be more man than them. They are not perfect. They are not immortal. They are immortal beings on that team. They bleed, they sweat, they cry. You can't beat them. They're not invincible. Bama's not invincible. All this bullshit that I continue to hear constantly over and over all day long, all week. LSU sucks. LSU sucks. Well, then you take your team and you line up in Death Valley and you come see it. I dare you. Because even in a loss, LSU can prove that they're on their way. Bookmarks have been very much been on the forefront this week. I'm not going to talk trash about Bama. They're a good team. They're a really good team. They can beat LSU too. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. You're a good team too. You're a top 10 team. Go and prove it. Because when I look down the roster, when I look down what LSU's got, guys, you have a lot of pieces. Has Kayshon Boutte maybe taken a step back? Maybe. He's still better than a lot of dudes in the SEC. Your wide receivers are coming together. Your running game is coming together. Your offensive line is coming together. Your quarterback is finding his rhythm. He's finding his way. The defensive line that we talked about all season, they're finding their way. You have really good young pieces, Harold Perkins, Emory Jones, Campbell, along with the veteran pieces like Josh Williams, who's, quite honestly, guys, let's call it what it is. It's come out of nowhere. Do you think on 3rd and 1 that Josh Williams is going to give you everything he's got? If you don't bring your lunch pail, if Bama doesn't bring their lunch pail along with LSU, you're going to get smacked in the face. This isn't, and what's funny is not only LSU fans, but fans in general, college football fans in general, Les Miles isn't on that sideline. Oh, Brian Kelly loses the big games. Guys, 2 weeks ago, number 7 Ole Miss came into this state, and lost. And not only lost, LSU went on a 42-3 run. They murdered them. The team that you're saying is a top 11 team. You know, now that the Auburn job is open, the only thing that I continuously hear is Lane Kiffin this, Lane Kiffin that. What about Brian Kelly being 3-1 against Lane Kiffin? Huh. Interesting, isn't it? Get ready. A storm's coming. All right. I'm going to get to a couple of these super chats. Then I'm going to get to the rest of this Rafino's rants. Dane Bergeron said, Blake, I nominate you to give pregame speeches to the team. I appreciate that. Maybe they'll listen. Maybe they won't. I don't know. Unknown on YouTube since $20 via super chat. Thank you, Unknown. If you got a comment, throw it in there. We appreciate you doing that. Dane Bergeron sends $10 via super chat as well. He says, hi, Blake. You should post some pics of the future Golden Girl. By the way, I ordered some stuff from First Light. Okay, I'll let him know. Thank you. He says, I will see those guys at SHOT Show in January. Yeah, they're fantastic. Let them know that Blake Rafino sent you on by. They're fantastic, Dane. Thank you for the super chat. They're awesome. That hat that I wear, the black and orange hat, you won't find a better hat. Daniel Glenn says, Blake, you need to narrate a hype video. Well, we did it. If Zach was here instead of, I'm at church. If if Zach was here, I'd let him show you. We did a hype video. I'll have to send it to you. I'll have to send it to you. For sure. Very quickly, because I want to get to this the guy that's got to be Superman and a guy that I think that can be Superman in this game to help you to win it. Listen, for some of you that know and some of you that don't, I'm from a small town in Louisiana called Franklinton. Okay. Mom and dad were divorced. I grew up in Amy and Hammond, and I grew up in Franklinton. Went to school in Franklinton. We played teams like Bogalusa. Listen, there's only one thing I'm going to say about this situation that happened in Bogalusa, because everybody's asking me to talk on it. If you missed it, there was a shooting at a football game. First off, take your business elsewhere. There's absolutely nothing that can happen at a football game where you got to pull out a firearm and shoot it at somebody. Nothing. Take your stupid ass and go somewhere else. There are children on that field. And let me tell you this. Those kids for Bogalusa did nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. They don't deserve the absolute immaturity of adults really, to pull out a firearm and start firing at people. Number one, you should be ashamed of yourself, and don't go to a damn game. Guys, this is a game. Take your shit and bring it elsewhere. That's number one. Number two, don't say anything about Albany forfeiting a game when you had that situation, Bogalusa. Don't do it. Look, I know for a fact you can get Louisiana State Police to work a detail, and you can get as many as you want if you plan it out right. But I am absolutely sick and tired of seeing adults get in fights. You know, there was a thing in Baltimore this week where I think it's two adults who are fighting in the middle of the field. Both teams are forfeiting the rest of the season because two adults wanted to decide they wanted to throw hands. Bring that stupid shit somewhere else. You are ruining the most memorable moments of young men's lives. And let me tell you this, guys, there is hundreds and hundreds of thousands of kids that this year will be their last football season that they'll ever play. You taking it away from them is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Okay. All right. We had a super chat, and I want to get to Jayden Daniels here in just a quick second. Everybody do us a favor by hitting a like and share. Jason Morgan, since 999, says, do you see them putting Perkins as a spy on Bryce Young? Thank you for the 999, Jason. Maybe at times, but not a lot. Look, if you have him spying Bryce Young, you don't have somebody in coverage. I get what you're saying. I think you got to do it in spurts. You can't do it all game because Bryce doesn't run enough, meaning when Bryce, what makes Bryce elusive and what makes him so dangerous is that Bryce Young he escapes to throw. He doesn't escape to run. He never really has. I get what you're saying about a spy and having somebody on him. You're going to have to do that at times. But when you take somebody out of coverage to spy on him, he eats you alive. So just understand that. You got to be careful there. Speaking of Bryce Young, Pooh Bear, let's bring up this stat. Hold on. Let me preface this first. I want to say this. There's a lot of you that owe Jayden Daniels an apology. Now, I understand that Bryce Young missed a couple of games, but we got something for you. Your quarterback, Jayden Daniels, is going to have to be Superman. For you to win, he's going to have to go off. He doesn't have to throw for over 300 yards. If he runs for 250 or throws for 250, runs for another 100, 150, you have a really good chance of winning. However, Pooh Bear, pull up these stats right quick. The comparison between Bryce Young and Jayden Daniels. Here's what I'm going to say. So we split the quarterbacks apart and what they're doing. You can see it here. If you're listening to us on radio or podcast, I'll read it out to you. Bryce Young, here's his stats. 66% completion percentage, 1,900 yards, 137 rushing yards, which, by the way, 100 of those rushing yards came in the first game of the season. So to the question from Jason earlier, okay, he legitimately only had 100. He had 100 rushing yards in week 1. So that means he had 37 rushing yards in 6 other games or 5 other games, however many he played. No, I'm not worried about Bryce Young running the football as much as I am him escaping and throwing the ball down the field. 3 interceptions. Here's the big thing and why I think Jayden Daniels is hitting his own and why he can be Superman for you to win the game. You can't make this up. Like, this isn't me trying to push something or push a narrative. Stats this late in the season don't lie. Jayden Daniels, 70% completion percentage, 1,800 passing yards, 524 rushing yards, 21 total touchdowns, 1 interception. Looks pretty comparable, doesn't it? Looks pretty freaking comparable, doesn't it? Now, I know that Bryce Young has missed a game. I understand that. I understand that he's been hurt. But one guy is in the Heisman Trophy consideration. Now, I understand he won it last year. That's how a lot of that works. Guys, I think Jayden Daniels might go off this upcoming Saturday. I think he might go off. He can't be, look, he's been so much better at this. But if I have a message to Jayden Daniels, just let that bitch rip. Let it rip. Let Alabama prove to you. Because, Jayden, I promise you this. If you got one-on-one with Brian Thomas Jr. and Eli Ricks, Brian Thomas Jr. is coming down with that ball. Because as much as I would love to share this, even though I can't, I've been at those practices when Brian Thomas Jr. and Eli Ricks went up one-on-one against one another, and it wasn't pretty on Eli Ricks' part. Trust him. Trust your mind. Trust your feet. Guys, Will Anderson, as good as he is, Dallas Turner, as good as he is, you can't compare with that speed. He gets the outside, watch out. And by the way, I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm hearing some things about Alabama possibly trying to play man-to-man coverage on LSU. Jayden Daniels, please, sweet baby Jesus, if they play man coverage on you, run that thing. If their back is turned to you, run that thing. Do not second-guess yourself. But, guys, the bottom line is the only way you're coming out of Death Valley with a victory on Saturday is if this young man continues to do this. Blake, Bryce Young missed the game. I don't give 2 Rudy Poos. The simple fact that Jayden Daniels had 6 drops against Auburn and still has a 70% completion percentage on the season. I mean, Jesus H. Christ. He can do it. You got to have faith. Guys, he is one of the tops in accuracy. Remember during the offseason, Pooh Bear, I know Pooh remembers this. Pooh, on a scale of 1 to a bajillion, how many comments in this show, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of listeners, every single night, Jayden Daniels inaccurate? Well, this tells me something different. It is comparable. I get that Bryce missed a game. But when you walk out there Saturday and you have a W, number 5, if, it will be because number 5 went off. All right, Wilson Alexander coming up in 1 minute. Let me get to a couple of these quick comments, though, before we get to him. Best hair in the business. I think he hates me saying that. I'm going to stop. He probably hates it. Like, Blake, shut the fuck up. All right, I'll stop, Wilson. I apologize. He said this will be a game that the whole team needs to let loose and just have at it. I agree. Pooh Bear said it. Another stat, he has only been under 70% in one game. That's insane. All right, last one. Cody McGee sends 999 via Super Chat, says, Blake, do you think Brian Kelly will go a lot of tempo on offense? Seems like when LSU goes tempo, they get better and better. On defense, a lot of blitz and zone coverage. Possibly. Jayden, and thank you for the Super Chat, Cody. I mean, Jayden feels comfortable in it. But you're going to – look, What's crazy is I still think that they found their identity in running the football. Look, 48 attempts 2 weeks ago against Ole Miss, and you're scoring over 40, or you're scoring 45 points. Same thing against Florida. You're running the football. Yes, it's with your quarterback too. You got to find your times to get tempo. You can't get in a situation when you're down 14. If that's a scenario, kind of slow it down. So we'll see. All right. Let's do this. Let's get to him. I'll have to ask him if he hates the hair comment. But you got to flaunt that thing though, right? You know, like if I had hair like that, I would go as Halloween, I'd go as Wilson Alexander. That's what I'd do. All right. All right. Let's get to our next break. Wilson Alexander from The Advocate next. Let's talk about our good friend Carol Foss over at State Farm. We return in 45 minutes. Let's talk some more LSU. Next. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Foss and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with a great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Foss has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements. All right, we are joined again by our good friend Wilson Alexander, who works for The Advocate. We'll let you know where you can get all of his stuff. Wilson, very quickly, before we get to LSU, are you okay with the hair comments? I mean, look at it, man. It's flawless again. Or do I need to quit? Just tell me. Tell me the truth. Live on YouTube.
No, I don't care. I mean, my hair's always been this thing in my family because of, I guess, how it looks. And my freshman year of high school on the baseball team, they made us, like, all the seniors, like, buzz, give us buzz cuts and stuff.
No.
And I walked in the door when I got home and took off my hat. My mom, like, started crying. So, so I don't mind hair discussions if I'm having a good hair day. That's all right. That's fine.
Were you mad at it, or were you like, yeah, okay, it'll just grow back? Like, were you mad when you had to do the buzz cut? Like,
oh no, yeah, no, I did not enjoy it. I resisted it as long as I could, but then realized, get over it. It's part of going up through the ranks and that kind of thing.
I would have ran. They would have had to catch my fat ass. I'm just going to let you know that right now. I'm not cutting the hair like that. All right, Wilson, I got to ask you. Last night, I think a lot of people were surprised. The college football rankings came out. LSU comes in at 10. It kind of was a national thing. A lot of people were talking about it, maybe thinking that LSU didn't deserve to be there, even though they've really done well the last 2 weeks. When those rankings came out, you saw LSU at 10. What was your immediate thoughts?
I was surprised, with them at 15 because there's a couple one-loss teams that they ended up ahead of. Like, it made sense putting them in front of Ole Miss because there had been so much discussion about Ole Miss hadn't really proven a lot. And then, of course, LSU had to win over Ole Miss. But, like, UCLA was behind them as well. UCLA's had a pretty good year. And it was kind of surprising that, they're only the fifth team in the college football playoff rankings to debut with 2 losses in the top 10. And so it was a bit surprising. Kind of as the rankings were unfolding, I kept thinking, like, wait, have they not ranked them? And instead they were just that high.
Well, I tell you, as soon as they did 11 through, I think it was 11 through 15, I tweeted out, I was like, oh, shoot, they're going to be number 10, right? Like, I immediately was like, because you got to rank them. I mean, right? Like, you can't just leave them out. I guess to you, how massive, though, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago with you, we said, what is it? I don't want to say like the legacy of Brian Kelly. He's already got a legacy for him. But do you think that win, the way that it was against Ole Miss, just sent that many wavelengths across the nation that they maybe this was like, man, LSU might be for real under BK?
It helped, certainly. It helped show that the improvement that they had sort of been – it was back-to-back weeks of really good games, right, with Florida and Ole Miss. That even though they had lost to Florida State, and maybe some people wrote them off after that and then gotten blown out by Tennessee, maybe more people wrote them off for that. They're like, okay, hey, you can't – this is year one, but this team is going to be someone that you have to look at that's going to be in the top 25 and now have a chance to win the SEC West. And, a lot of what happens in year one isn't going to certainly like what we remember when we ultimately look back on Brian Kelly's tenure. But it's sort of, woke everybody up again to sort of like, okay, LSU, you're going to have to pay attention to them. There's something going on down there that's worth watching. And you mentioned the Ole Miss win. That's part of what factored into the committee's decision. I asked Boo Corrigan, the CFP selection committee chair, last night, like, basically, why is LSU number 10? And he mentioned the win over Ole Miss, mentioned the win over Mississippi State, acknowledged the fact that they had lost to Florida State and Tennessee. He said his words were, they seem to be getting better and better. And that certainly is what you seem, I think people are seeing when they watch this team right now.
All right, so guys, continue firing your questions to Wilson. We'll get to them at the end. Wilson, there's a lot of people that believe that LSU can't knock off a giant in Alabama. I guess when you look at this game holistically, where are you at? Where are you at here?
I think that there is a reasonable chance and hope, largely because of the way Jayden Daniels has played the last 2 weeks.
I agree.
That it could happen. Also, being at home, Alabama has struggled in a couple of road atmospheres this year with penalties. They had, 15 for 100 yards against Texas, 17 for 130 yards, which was the most ever under a Saban team against Tennessee. An entire stadium can be rocking. Then, at nighttime in Death Valley, first ranked, two ranked teams, and certainly in the college football playoffs since, I guess 2019 I think they would have played another ranked team like in the top 10 in that year, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But anywho, those are advantages, and so it still feels like it would be a massive upset, and that a lot would have to go in LSU's way to make it happen. Alabama, even though it looks sort of vulnerable, is still one of the best teams in the country when Bryce Young plays, and so it would take a lot, but I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility.
What are those things that you think, like, so you said some things would have to happen, or there are some specific keys? Like, the thing that we talked about last night was, look, Alabama's had a perplexity of turning the football over in critical situations. We saw that last season in both SEC and national title game. We saw that against Texas A&M. We actually saw that again against Texas A&M this season and Tennessee. It seems as if that there has been a thing with Alabama when they have to score. I saw a stat the other day of 6 drives when needing to score, they have 5 turnovers. I think that that's a massive thing, but is there something that you look like, hey, man, Alabama might be the most vulnerable here? I think LSU can exploit it because they're good.
Yeah, turnovers would be one of the things, because you actually looked at it the last couple of weeks. LSU has all but 2 of their touchdown drives have been over 70 yards over the last 2 weeks. Only 2 against Ole Miss. One was 50 yards, one was 38 yards. Now, it's great to see an offense that is able to sustain drives like that, but it's going to be hard to do against Alabama's defense because they have allowed 15 touchdowns this year. That's the 6th fewest in the country. 7 of those were against Tennessee. And your LSU, all that's played well the last 2 weeks on offense, it's not the Tennessee offense. And so turnovers, getting them good field position is going to be really critical, I think, in this game. Other thing that will be obviously important is just what they do on the edges to slow down Will Anderson and Dallas Turner. Brian Kelly mentioned using some max protections, chipping with running backs and tight ends, giving those 2 freshman offensive tackles a little bit of help to try to give Jayden Daniels more time. If LSU has an advantage, it might be at wide receiver. Alabama does not have a dynamic wide receiver. Their leading pass catcher right now is Jahmyr Gibbs, running back. And so, it's going to be interesting actually seeing like Kayshawn versus Eli Ricks now that Eli's a starter over there at Alabama. And then Kool-Aid, of course, too. They've got some decent corners, but those are maybe a couple things that kind of come to mind. There's a lot that still probably leans in Alabama's favor, even though they're a little bit more vulnerable this season. But I guess LSU, still matches up all right in a couple of spots.
Roderick Dugas says, #Ask Wilson, do you think LSU can put together an epic defensive strategy that could have us wowed versus Bryce Young and Gibbs? I'm going to kind of shift that a little bit. Look, we talk a lot about Bryce Young, but Jahmyr Gibbs, man, you just mentioned, Wilson, that he's their leading pass catcher. He's explosive. He's electric. How do you contain them? I know that Mississippi State did it last week. What do you see? What do you think and how they could put together maybe slowing him down as well?
Well, it's going to be absolutely vital because he is the main weapon on offense.
No doubt.
If they can somehow take him away and force Bryce Young to try to throw downfield to those receivers, then this game, you probably like what your chances are if you're LSU. I think that makes this a big Harold Perkins game, a big B.J. Ojolari game, Micah Vasquez as well. Those linebackers, interesting. Brian Kelly said, this week that LSU, sort of acknowledged like we got to have our best players on the field, and mentioned Micah and BJ and Harold, and then said today that they've actually got like their base defense now has them on there, has BJ and Harold actually on there at the same time, which obviously we haven't really seen yet, except for some Ole Miss moments with like certain packages on third down and fourth down when they were rushing the passer. And so I'm going to be really interested to see what that looks like, because anytime you're talking about defending a running back, it kind of comes down to those linebackers, and they're going to have a good game. I'm really interested to see how Harold plays in this situation, sort of one of his big tests here as a freshman. But Micah and BJ have been doing this for a while, and they're going to have a good game, though. I feel like it comes down to those three and their ability to stop him, and also chase down Bryce Young when he's able to elude pressure and escape the pocket and create like he's usually able to do. They're going to have to stop him from turning what can be a small game into a big game, because he's so good at that.
It was interesting, Wilson. A lot of people, and to your point, a lot of people talk about even spying Bryce Young, and where I don't disagree at all in doing that at spurts. He only has 137 rushing yards this season in Bryce Young, but 100 of those came in week 1, right? So of the last 6 games that he's played, 37 are of those 6 games. Let me ask you this. You talk about Harold Perkins being in there, and obviously they found a way to put those two, I'd say either freshman All-American and All-American, or just 2 great pieces in there. Did this sway you in any way, knowing that Harold Perkins might play more than maybe that we've seen in last games?
I'm not sure it sways me too much, because we saw him play good against Ole Miss, but it was really effective, obviously, when he did. But this is, Bryce Young is completely different than Jackson Dart. Once LSU was able to get pressure on Jackson Dart and force Ole Miss to throw the football, that game, got wrapped up pretty quick. Bryce Young, you talk about him being able to run. Yeah, he's not. That's the thing. That's kind of the difference when you look statistically at him and Jayden, is that Bryce Young sort of runs to still throw, and Jayden is getting there. There's been a lot of improvement with that the last 2 weeks, but he's still someone who's going to run and pick up yards with his legs. And you don't necessarily want to take that away from him, because that's part of what makes him really special. But that's just sort of the difference between them in approach. Bryce Young, when he's breaking the pocket, he still has his eyes very much downfield looking to throw, and he typically will. He can pick up a few yards here and there if he needs to, but that's just not really what he's going to do. And so LSU has to keep him sort of contained within the pocket so that he can't just create like that, because he's such a sort of magical sometimes in the way that he can do that and really pull things out of his hat and kind of and just create stuff when there's nothing there. And LSU has had some trouble bringing down mobile quarterbacks this season. We saw that in the opener against Florida State. Certainly saw that in the Auburn game with Robbie Ashford early on. And so they're going to have to get him down on the ground quickly and keep contained so that he can't sort of disrupt that defensive structure and take advantage of a secondary if it loses its eyes.
We have a couple questions in here, so I'm not going to bring up more than one of them or just leave one person out. Do you think the weather is a major factor here? I know that I think WBRZ or somebody said that it's just going to be raining in the morning and more clear in the afternoon. That affect anything in your mind? I mean, because it seems like it's clear throughout the evening.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like we need to kind of like see what the weather's forecast is going to be closer to kickoff, if that rain ends up actually sitting there. If it does, then it's hard to say, because LSU hasn't really played like a wet game this season. I
don't think Bama has either, right?
I don't think so, no. And I remember there was some discussion about the hurricane with the Auburn game, but that ended up clearing out, and that the weather was just fine. And so I'm sure the LSU has been accounting for it a little bit in practice, maybe doing some wet ball drills and things like that. But in terms of what effect it has on the game, I feel like we're going to need to just see come game time whether or not it does in any way. Some of these really good teams, it ends up not mattering that much once you really get down to it. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see on that one.
Wilson, to shift gears on you very quickly, Georgia, Tennessee, massive game in the East, massive game in the West. Look, I'm on the Tennessee hype train, like toot. You can't get me off of it right now. I don't know if I'm just an idiot or what, but I had them number one team after they beat Bama and our poll. I don't know how you see them, but I think that they're going to win Saturday. That's just my belief. I don't think Georgia can keep up with them scoring, but we have seen good teams struggle. We saw LSU in 2019 only scored 23 points against Auburn. How do you see this game in Athens with Georgia and Tennessee kick off?
Well, it really comes down to me for what can Georgia do in the secondary. I remember going to that Georgia-Tennessee game last year. I thought that Tennessee might be able to give Georgia some trouble, as good as that Georgia defense was, and it was excellent. Tennessee actually had some opportunities to keep that a lot closer. There were some receivers open downfield that at that time Hendon Hooker missed. The Tennessee offense was still in those early stages and just hadn't become what it is today yet. The offseason obviously helped with that, and then Jalen Hyatt turning into a possible Blitnikoff winner and all those things. Now that Tennessee offense is what we have seen, and the Georgia secondary is a little bit more vulnerable. That was their kind of the weaker spot on that great defense last year, was in the secondary at times, and Tennessee wasn't able to take advantage of it a year ago. But now they've got the talent and the chemistry to do so, and I feel like it just comes down to that. The Georgia offense will probably, if it can run the ball, will be able to have some success. Tennessee's been really good at stopping the run. Georgia is actually throwing more than it's running, but it's not an explosive down. I know, right? But it's not an explosive downfield passing game because it uses all those tight ends. So I feel like it comes down to kind of those two aspects. Who actually ends up winning it? I sort of think Tennessee does too. Growing up in Georgia, I've watched a lot of Georgia football. Other than last year, other than maybe last year, and I guess like the 2013 LSU game that a lot of people here will remember, they don't tend to come up big in big moments. So even though they won the national championship last year, and maybe that program is becoming something that can turn into win those big games, Tennessee is rolling in a way that I feel like they'll be able to exploit the secondary enough to win.
I don't really remember. It was an interesting stat. And last thing, since you talk about being in Georgia and all that, I don't really remember like a lot of massive games in Athens, right? Like 2018 LSU, it is in Baton Rouge. You have the Alabama game, but they just don't play a lot of massive games in Athens. I don't know if that's just me or am I crazy there? Like, this will be the biggest game that they've had at home in a while, right?
It's probably the biggest game that they've ever had in Sanford Stadium. I mean, it's hard to find, a 1 versus 3 kind of matchup, 1 versus 2, whatever poll you use. It's I think the first like top 5 game in Sanford Stadium, certainly if not ever than in a very, very long time. They've had some big games. Notre Dame came down there a couple of years ago. Right. That was a big one. Right. Like you mentioned, whenever Alabama came.
But there was nobody there, though. Remember, that was like the COVID year. Like, nobody was there. Like, they had their parents. I mean, like, I don't count that as a massive game either,
Which one do you mean?
Well, remember in 2020, Alabama went to Athens, and it was during COVID, and I don't remember a lot of people being there. Like, they had the lower deck that was put out, but the entire upper deck in Athens wasn't.
I think that was in Tuscaloosa.
Oh, yeah, was it? Okay, my bad. I thought it was in Athens. Okay, my bad.
But no, still, to your point, this is the biggest game. Georgia's gotten used to playing big games because of where it's now become as a program with SEC championships and national championship appearances and Rose Bowl and things like that. But at home, this is the biggest game and possibly ever, certainly in quite a long time over there.
Wilson, I know we just had a question that popped in. I know that Brian Kelly talked about this today, but there are some injury guys back from injury. Gary Dellinger, on the teleconference today, he talked about being day to day. Am I wrong there? I don't think he's going to play a lot of significant snaps unless he has to, right?
Yeah, I think that's the expectation. They were hoping to get him back for this Alabama game, but he only really just started practicing like this week, and they had to figure out if that workload, if he could handle it on the knee. He had an MCL, strain basically a couple of weeks ago, and that can be an injury that takes about this long to get back from. And so if he does play, Brian Kelly said he would play about 20 to 25 snaps, just kind of be a piece of a rotation, which certainly helps LSU because if he's playing as well as he can, he's one of their best linemen. But if it ends up that he's less than 100%, then you probably stick with Miles Frazier in that scenario. But they would like to get him back, but it's going to come down probably to kind of like a game time decision how much they use him. If at all, if they do, it'll be relatively sparingly, like 20, 25 snaps. So.
As my grandfather used to say about his old beat up Toyota truck, son, if it's not broke, don't fix it. All right, Wilson Alexander, always so excited to have you here, man. Thank you for your time. Tell everybody where they can catch all your stuff. I know that they know, but just in case they don't, tell them where they can catch everything that you're doing.
Yeah, sure thing. My Twitter handle's there on the screen. You can interact with me there over all of our works on The Advocate and NOLA.com. And then we do we'll have to get you maybe on our show sometime. That we do on Wednesday afternoons over on the Advocates pages and that kind of thing. And but thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks, Wilson. We'll talk next, or I say next week, but we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Y'all have a good night.
All right, you too, man. That's Wilson Alexander from The Advocate. Always fantastic. All right, let's take our last break, and then we'll get out of here. Let's talk about our good friends over at the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. We return in 45 seconds. We'll finish next.
By the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Whether you've been injured in an accident, you're preparing for a future with your estate planning, you're getting ready to close in on a real estate deal, or you're about to welcome a new addition through adoption into your family, or you're facing criminal charges, you need very experienced attorneys, and that is what the Drake Williams Law Firm will be able to do for you in navigating the legal system. The door to their cozy office in historic downtown Ponchatoula has been open since 1981. They have helped thousands and thousands of Louisiana families and individuals win cases, close on real estate deals, and regain that peace of mind. Their lawyers over at the Drake Williams Law Firm, Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, are very determined, compassionate, and dedicated to their craft. It's the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. Tell them your good friend Blake Rafino at AYS sent you on by.
Pooh Bear, do we have a Phillies score? Are they playing right now? Am I going nuts? Because I see this from Jordan. He says Aaron Nola. He must be going off. I haven't been able to keep too much tabs on it during the show. Jay Ream says, please tell me this chat is free of Voltards. Yes, it is. I mean, maybe I'm losing it. I haven't seen any. Look, there is a lot. Look, on the top of 3. There we go. It sounds like Nola's going off though. Look, we do have the SEC West. We do have the SEC. Hold on. I'm trying to pull it up because I accidentally exited it out. We do have a lot of big games this week in the SEC outside of Alabama and LSU and Georgia, Tennessee. Look, something that's interesting, we'll talk about this Saturday morning. Florida taking on Texas A&M and probably a dumpster fire bowl. Man, I got to say this. I know that Texas A&M lost last week. I'm really interested to see, though, how they do with their new quarterback and Connor Weigman. I thought that they looked a lot better offensively. I'm not going to say that they can beat Florida, but I got to tell you this. I'm really interested. If I'm a betting man, I'm not taking that game either. But if I had to lean, I think since it's in College Station, I might lead A&M on that one. Hugh Freeze comes back to the SEC, takes on Arkansas. I think Arkansas is going to roll there. LSU's next opponent is going to be interesting to see them kick off at 3 p.m. I know a lot of people won't watch that game because of Georgia, Tennessee. I'll be trying to keep my eyes on it. Give me Arkansas massive there. Auburn, Mississippi State's a very interesting game. It'll be at 6:30 as well. Look, I don't know. And it's really interesting for me because Cadillac Williams takes over as the interim coach there this week, obviously with Brian Harsin being beat. Man, I really want them to win for Cadillac. Cadillac's on 22. Wasn't he number 24? Wasn't he number 24 at Auburn? They should have gave that man 22 just so you could bump it every time he scored. Cadillac's on 22. I kind of want him to win for Cadillac, man. I mean, that's got to be a dream. When you go into coaching and you played as much as he did at his alma mater, and the head coach that hired him is obviously fired now, more than likely, and we don't see this very often, excuse me, that you get retained from a new staff. Man, I really hope he gets some wins in there. So we'll see, man. We'll see. Stacey Blackwood, our good buddy, has been on the show a couple times, says, yeah, he was 24. What's up, buddy? We need to get you on. Stacey, I'm going to hit you up tonight. We'll probably try to get you on tomorrow if you got time. Covers Alabama. Thank you for stopping by, buddy. Man, I don't know what's going on with me. Vanderbilt, South Carolina. October is over. Pooh Bear, I got an upset. I got an upset brewing. I think South Carolina's going down. I think South Carolina's going down. I want Vanderbilt to win. I'm really not a massive. I'm just not a massive South Carolina Shane Beamer fan. I'm man, I'm just really, really, really not. So that'll be my 4. Obviously, man, every time we get here, I want to talk Saints, but we'll see. Stacy Blackwood said A&M is due for a win. Look, I think Connor Weidman's a good kid. I think he's a good quarterback. I think they're going to beat Florida. Give me the Aggies. As much as I don't like saying that, give me the Aggies. Jordan says, watch him beat a Bama team who gets decimated by LSU and Ole Miss. You're talking about Cadillac. Well, if Cadillac beats Bama, they might hire him. Maybe not. I don't know. But I'm going to tell you what, if they win out, they better give them consideration. Jerry Carter says, David Banner. Can I tell y'all a rapper that was with David Banner on some of these songs that I couldn't stand? Paul Wall. I'm the Iceman, Paul Wall. Pooh Bear says, you can't clear your throat and say Cocktober. Pause. Yeah, it's not me. It's not me. They said it was Cocktober. It's not my gay saying. I probably shouldn't say that. God dang, I'm going to get canceled. It's not my saying. John Bolin says, give me the Aggies. Pause. I'm getting paused all over the place. I'm telling you, man, they're due for a win. They're due for a win. D Payne says, Cadillac on 22s. Great song. Great song. All right, guys. I might be jumping over to Carter the Power Bryant show next. Should go over there. We're going to cut it up. We'll talk next. We'll see y'all soon. Y'all have a good night. Peace out, Girl Scouts.